it's on my computer. Here we go. All right.
Sounds good. My name is Christine Demorit. I go by Chris. I've been working with Ken for about a year and a half, and Laura just joined me. I joined Laura about 6 months ago, maybe a little bit, maybe a little less. I wanted to come tonight because I just started going to therapy after major prodding from Ken, and it's been fantastic. It really has made me be much more self-aware of things that bother me and what I really need to work on myself to make sure that I achieve the goals that I really want to achieve. I'm an avid cyclist, gravel bike rider, and I'm just really excited to get some really great tips from Laura. And I'm not good at self-care, so I think this will truly be helpful in getting me on track to make sure that I do take care of myself more than I do.
I feel like there is a definite, particularly with women, that we have this deficit when it comes to self-care. We're very good at taking care of all the others, right? Yeah, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Chris. Who would like to go next? Anyone?
I can go.
Okay.
I'm Heather. I'm Laura's sister. And I wanted to be here tonight because I think there's always something to add to the wellness journey, and I want to everybody to take better care of myself and doing the self-care and all that. I tend to overdo, and I was having a conversation with somebody today, and he had asked me if I wanted to have him send me some information, and I said yes. He's like, "Oh, so you're really interested?" I'm like, "No, I just can't say no." So I'm like, I have trouble with that, so just all the things. So I'm here tonight.
I think, you know what, I love that you are aware of and aware and not afraid to tell people, no, really, I just can't say no. That's a huge thing when it comes to self-care. The word no is really, really challenging for all of us, I think. So thank you. It's good to see you. All right, Delane, Megan, who's next?
I'll go.
Okay.
I keep checking my phone because I want you to know that I invited 4 people to join us because and this is what I told all of them. I told them I have learned so much from Laura, and I invite you to join, and because I call myself the Laura evangelist sometimes because I have learned so much from Laura, you guys, and I'm sure all of you have. But I've been working with Laura for how long? A year and a half or something. I don't know. But I've learned so much from you. And so I'm here just to learn more and to be reminded of things that I've already learned. So
right, because we started out doing functional coaching because you wanted to kind of tighten things up in the nutrition area and the sleep. Sleep is a big deal. And now you come to my house and you train. So that's exciting. I love that. Thank you, ma'am. Oh, and thank you for promoting me. It's always nice. I appreciate it. All right, Megan. Megan, with all the fancy, I love all the things behind you. It just makes me warm and fuzzy. What are you here for?
Okay, so I'm here. I've been working with you for like a little over a year now. I've tried self-care things in the past, and like not just like face masks and stuff, because that is really not self-care. But I tend to take it from like 0 to 100 really quick, and I take something good and turn it into something that's a little harmful. Whether like I get really competitive with it or I try to perfect it. So I'm here to just learn more about it and kind of how to take a step back. Less is more for me.
There you go. That's a really good point. I think, and thank you for sharing that, because it is true that we can kind of hyper focus on something and be like, I have to do this. And then it becomes less of self-care or less helpful or less healthy and more of an obsession, more stressful than the purpose was to be less stressful. So that, you know, and I love that we ended with you saying that, because I think that's important to keep in mind as we go through this, is that it's not about doing everything. and it's not about being perfect. It's about, let's just go over some stuff. Let's have a conversation about really what self-care can be, what self-care is, and what those things can look like, and how we can actually create space in our lives for self-care, because sometimes it feels like super overwhelming and everybody's telling you to do 3 million things, or you're like, I have to go on a week's vacation to an ashram and sit and be quiet and meditate, and that's the only way it can happen. So I love that you brought that up. To begin, I'm going to share my screen. So those of you who know me well know that my my technological abilities are suspect at times. Look at, here it is. It's so fun that I can do this. All right, so this is what I based this webinar on. Just to give you an idea of some strategies, some basic information. So we're not going to go over this word for word, but I want to give this to you as kind of a backdrop as we chat. Please know, I know I used to be a teacher, but when people were super quiet in my class, I freaked out a little bit, because I want you all to feel free enough to make comments, to ask questions, to stop in the middle. So if something is kind of pulling at you and tugging at you, please make sure that you just, say something. Okay. No stress. That's what this is supposed to be about. No stress, self-care. So what is self-care? So a lot of people think that self-care is, and Megan, you alluded to this, is like, I'm going to go get a facial. I'm going to get my nails done. I'm going to get a massage. I'm going to go on vacation. Although vacation is a good self-care thing. Sometimes we all need that. Self-care really at its core is about taking the time to pay attention to yourself. Like I said when we first started talking, we tend to give and give and give of our time. We tend to give of ourselves. We tend to, and we have to think about this too. We tend to give of our, I call it like giving people like free rent in our head, right? We give that a lot to people. And it's not a bad thing, because we need to care about each other. And as women, we do that very well. And sometimes, though, to our detriment. So when we think about self-care, it is more about, how can we place ourselves on our list? How can we put ourselves and a way to care for ourselves in our schedule every day? Just every day. Because, there are people, I've talked to lots and lots of people who are like, oh no, Laura, I'm going on a vacation in June. I'll take care of it then. Well, it doesn't really work. We need to plan some self-care things every single day. And obviously it can't be a massage every day, although that would be nice. It can't be, getting your nails done every day. It can't be getting your hair done every day, right? We are not those people. I know there are people like that on the planet. I don't know any of them personally. But we need to find ways that we can make ourselves a priority, even if it's just a small thing, and how to do that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So basically, it is really, self-care is really recognizing the fact that you are important. And it's not selfish. And when I talk to my clients, and just pretty much anyone in general, I hear people saying that, particularly women, I feel selfish when I do things for myself, right? Yeah, Chris is shaking her head. Yeah, definitely. Yep. So I always couch it this way. To be selfish means that you are doing something for yourself to the detriment of other people. So there's always, that's the word selfish has that connotation of negativity to it, right? So if you're doing something nice for yourself, if you're taking time for yourself, that isn't doing that out of a negative space for other people, right? So if it's your birthday, say it's Megan's birthday, and instead of giving Megan a birthday gift, I'm celebrating myself. Like I'm going to buy myself a gift for Megan's birthday because I'm just that great, which is ridiculous. We'd never do that. But think about it that way, right? Is like, because we have that and you laugh, but think about it. When we think about doing something nice for ourselves or doing something for ourselves, the first thing we do in our mind is we say, oh, but I should be doing something for someone else. Right.
Mhm.
And we immediately push ourselves out of the picture and put someone else in there. So where do you start? We always start with an awareness. Okay. So what I want you to do right now. So if you have paper by you, this would be great. If you have some paper, and I know that Delane does, I've seen her looking down. If you have some paper, this is a great time to do this. Here's how we do this. The first thing we do is we take an inventory of where we are in our self-care journey. And there's generally 4 different areas that we can look at for self-care, or maybe 3. My little box is in my way. 4. Yeah. So we have the physical self-care, we have the mental area, emotional, and social. Do I suggest that you do all 4 areas at one time and pick something and just go for it? No. Here is the great part about this is it is your journey, right? If you've ever worked with a coach, and I think every one of you has, it should be that it's your journey. And so you get to pick where you want to start. And that's why we start with self-awareness. That's why we start with taking an audit of where we're at. Because if you don't know, then you can't pick an area that works better for you. So when you think about these 4 areas, I would say choose one right now. When you're thinking about them, kind of go over them in your head. Choose one area where you think, you know what, I could probably use a little self-care in this area. Okay. Pick one. And then just start making a list of things in that area that you haven't done. Things that you haven't done that you think would be beneficial for you. Right. So if I'm going to choose, I'm going to choose social because I live in a very small town and I'm not very social and I work from home. And I know Delane, you work from home. Chris, it sounds like you work from home. Yeah.
Mhm.
Megan studies from home. Oh my God, we're all work from homers. Every one of us. That's amazing. So if I were going to pick social, boy, I will tell you, I feel like I don't connect with my friends enough on the phone. I could probably, oh my, that would be a stretch, but I could probably FaceTime them. And that might be fun. So I probably don't see them face to face enough. I don't get out of my house enough. I don't go out for coffee enough. Those are just some things, right? So think about your area that you want to choose. And if you want, you can bump into the other areas. That's just fine. Because sometimes you can only think of a couple of things in one area. So take a few minutes just to write some things down about things that you feel like you could do or you are lacking in that you might want to bump up in each of those areas, one of those areas, 2 of those areas. Something that might work for you. Or something that's kind of top of mind right now that you feel like, I'm just not doing enough in that area. Would anyone like to share an area and 1 or 2 things that you wrote down? I have to say, after being on the road last week in Wyoming, I really have to cut back on the extra calories. I got used to having them and I'm in a cut right now. So it's been different. Indifferent.
I think your calories were just fine in that car. Since I had
Well,
more than you.
funny. I tried.
I don't know. I think I probably need to work on, mental stuff like boundaries and saying no, and not just, this new awareness of the fact that I don't ever say no is a newer thing, and working on enforcing, like, being okay with the no and understanding that other people are okay with my no too, and if they're not, then that's nothing that I have to worry about. And just moving more, because I work from home and I have 4 different things I do. Some ways sitting, and all the things involve sitting, so I don't move a whole lot.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else want to share?
Heather, I am so with you. I'm exactly the same. I don't know how to say no. I don't like saying no, but I know that I have to say no. So I am right there with you. I'm learning that I have to say no, and I'm getting better at it. But I think that's probably the hardest thing any of us have to do. If we're people that just want to pacify everyone, it's so hard for us to say no. But I realize that I'm spreading myself way too thin, and that if they're upset about it, I can't worry about it. I have to do I'm starting to learn through therapy that I have to do what's best for me instead of what's best for everybody else. So I can completely sympathize with you on that, because I'm a don't say no type of person too. So and I think Laura knows that. We've had conversations, about that before, even in emails. But I just really struggle with not wanting to please everyone, and I'm learning that I just have to make myself a priority. So that's why I'm just so happy to be here, and be able to get some ideas off of you all, as well. And I know that I have to work on that part of myself, making sure that I decompress every day if I've had a stressful day. Take some time at night to just emotionally decompress myself, because if I don't, then I don't sleep. And sleep has been one of my really difficult things to get a hold of. And now that I'm emptying my brain, at the end of the day, and I'm finally going to bed without having like 50 million thoughts racing in my head so that I can't sleep. And I have to say, over the last month, I have been able to sleep so much more, and I realize how much more alert I am in the morning when I wake up and I'm not groggy. So I can't even tell you how much sleep has made a huge difference for me. So
Chris,
those are kind of my things.
can you back up to that decompressing thing before bed? It
Yes,
sounds like you've started to implement something, a little self-care piece, right?
I did.
What is that?
I started, so I have a subscription to Calm, and I really love their sleep stories. So I will usually put on a sleep story. I'll take all the lights down, just sit in my bed with my phone, my sleep story, and I leave my phone there. I don't put headphones in. I just leave the phone out. I don't want kind of anything just bothering me. And I listen to one of the sleep stories, and I literally 9 times out of 10 will fall asleep before it's over. So they have these beautiful, calming voices. They tell these really neat stories, especially the ones like you're on a train going, like Killian Murphy does this wonderful one that he's on a train in Ireland. And I could listen to it every night and still fall asleep at the same time. So I just found if I listen to soothing music or somebody's soothing voice telling a story, my mind completely empties and I'm able to just kind of drift off to sleep. So that's been a really huge help to me, is just kind of letting my brain think about other things. And also, I try to go to bed just not having anything to worry about. Like there's, a lot of things go on in our day, but through therapy, and hate to keep harping on that, but I'm just finally realizing that I don't have to bring that stress to the end of the day with me. I kind of am dealing with each piece, um, each individual thing as it comes, and saying, okay, this is fine, this isn't a big deal, and letting it go instead of letting it build up towards the end of the day where I've got 10 things on my mind that are stressing me out, and all they're doing is running in there while I'm trying to sleep. So just trying to deal with each of those stressors that comes along during the day at the time that it happens, and not letting it stick until the end of the day. And then, like I said, just kind of calming myself down at night has made, it's a game changer. I mean, I have not slept this well in a really, really long time. So I highly recommend either the Calm app or any type of even free apps that have like little sleep stories that just kind of calm you down and have those really nice calming voices. Seems to work for me. So.
And you bring up a really good point, that the ability to get enough sleep, and that's dependent for everyone, right? That really is a huge recovery piece, physically, emotionally, mentally. When we are sleep deprived, being able to deal with stressors in our life, being able to hold our boundaries, being able to get the things done we want to get done, not having anxiety about the things that are going on. Sleep really is a key to that. So any way that you can find to, like you said, and the biggest inhibitor that I've noticed when I've talked to the women that I talk to, particularly for women, is we don't compartmentalize. We run. Those squirrels in there just keep going and going and going. And we're always trying to fix some sort of something in our head. So to be able to find something like the Calm app or something to help you decompress, to be able to get into that really nice, calm sleep state is really important. So thank you for sharing. That's great.
Of course.
Great. Awesome. Anyone else want to share something that they've tried or that you are looking at like, oh, I really need help with this area?
Well, I've just become aware of something as I've been listening to all of you, because I was thinking, oh, well, I do this pretty well and I do this pretty well. And then I started writing things under social, and everything that I wrote under social was have someone over, or Laura, you here when I'm gonna go somewhere, go see someone, then I'm going there to help them. Everything that I do social which is I'm a helper. I'm a serving kind of person. And so that's what I do when I go to someone's house. I bring them food, or I go to help them with a project, and I invite someone to my house and host them. And so those are all good things, but I'm becoming aware as you all are talking that I need to do social things that are just for fun and not serving someone, even though that's also important.
It is important. So you bring up a great point, Elaine, is that we can still do those things. However, we need to maybe add some that don't make it so we have to do some work.
Right.
Yeah, right. Yes. So it's not like we're going to stop helping people and serving people. We just need to make sure that we have an opportunity to enjoy the moments and enjoy the time without having to do something. Nice.
Yep.
That's huge. So maybe instead of having someone to your house or going to someone's house, you could meet somewhere and have someone else
Right.
cook for you.
Yes.
Or do coffee for you, that kind of a thing.
Yes.
There you go. Very nice. Anyone else?
I'll go.
Oh.
So I struggle a lot with the emotional, because in the past, all of my self-care was more so to distract myself and disconnect myself from my feelings and emotions. It doesn't work though. It works for a short period of time, but it doesn't actually make the problems go away. And so it just like comes back whenever you finally get that moment to breathe, or at night at 4 in the morning. So I really need to work on that. I've tried journaling. I just don't think that's the thing for me. Um, I've also tried meditating. I have a really short attention span, so that didn't work either, but I'm finding ways.
Good. And that's important to remember too, is we might bring up things in here that work for some people and not for others. And I mean, we are inundated with different ways that people find for self-care, to think about ways to do it. And you really have to find what works for you, because what works for me might not work for Megan, might not work for Heather, or, you have to find what works for you. One note on meditation: it's really hard. It is really, really hard. And I think part of the reason that meditation is so difficult, I'm a trained yogi, and I've done yoga classes forever, and I've participated in meditation classes. The best thing that I learned from a gentleman who goes on these meditation retreats and sits in silence for a week. I can't understand it myself, but I guess I don't think I would enjoy myself that much, but that's okay. I can't be with myself that long. But is that meditation is not perfect. So if you're trying to do meditation, then you're doing it right. Right? Because what your brain always wants to do is to get you to be distracted from thinking about nothing. And you literally can't think about anything. You always are thinking about something. So when the thought comes in, you acknowledge it and you just let it do what it's going to do. It's detaching from the thoughts. And a lot of times when we think about meditation, we think we're going to quiet our minds so there are no thoughts. And I don't know about you ladies, but I have never had a time in my brain where there were no thoughts.
Exactly.
I don't know what that silence ever, I don't know what that means. That never happens. So, so if you're going to try meditation, which is always, it's great, remember to try it and think about it that way. Think about it in the way that you are really just letting the thoughts come and letting them do what they want, and just detaching from them and kind of being the observer of the thoughts instead of being interactive with your thoughts. Thank you, Megan. That's a great one. Meditation is really, really hard. It's like 5 seconds at a time. That's it. Okay, so if you choose to do this, once you kind of get everything on paper or whatever format works for you to kind of get your ideas down, like I said, use all the 4 areas. If you have a different way to title your area, if you have something else that you want to think about that doesn't fit into the areas, you can write all those down. Get them all down on paper and then say, where do I want to start? Where do I want to start? It is never, I'm going to pick 5 things and I'm going to go from there. Pick one thing to start with, because that one thing is going to have a ripple effect. One thing is going to have a ripple effect. If you try to do more than one thing at a time, it's going to be very, very difficult, because whenever we're making changes and we're making different habits, if we try to do too many things, everything falls apart. So pick one thing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of my favorite self-care activities and why they're my favorite self-care activities. Because when we talk about self-care, like I said, most people think we're talking about doing all those things that are the standard self-prioritizing things that we hear about: manicures, pedicures, having a spa day, taking ourselves out to lunch, going to a movie, getting a massage, all those things. What we're talking about today is, what are the daily habits that you can create for yourself that are actually taking care of you? So here are the big ones. Sleep. Sleep is a big one. We just talked about that. Chris brought it up. I know, Delane, we've talked about it multiple times. Like we said, sleep is where you get your biggest bang for your buck when it comes to physical recovery and mental recovery. Your brain gets to dissect everything that happened to you during the day, remove things, move things around, analyze things, be done, walk away. That's why we have these really strange dreams, because that's how your brain recovers from the day. Physically, your body goes into a death state. Honestly, if we didn't have cortisol in our body, we would never wake up from a sleep. We would actually die. Cortisol is the hormone. It's the awakening response. It makes us wake up in the morning. So if we didn't have, and everybody says cortisol is really bad. Oh my God, cortisol is so bad. It's your stress response. Well, we need that because we need to wake up in the morning, and our body needs that little kick of adrenaline, that little kick of cortisol to get it going and to keep it going. So super important to make sure that you get the sleep you need. And there are ways to make sure that can happen. balanced diet and hydration. So thinking about the fact that feeding ourselves on a schedule is also self-care. I'm talking about the basics here. I'm talking about the fact that many people I talk to forget to eat. They get busy with work, especially if you're working from home. You get busy, 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 and you're like, I'll just eat in a little bit, and then things happen. And because there is no set time to walk away from your desk, you don't see other people walking away from their desks for food or for a break. It is super, super important to make sure that you are feeding yourself.
Can I hop in on that one?
Yeah.
So when I worked in an office, so before Ron, my old boss, retired, and I worked in an office with other people, that was my thing. Every day it was like, hey, make sure you have lunch. Like I was making sure we had our breaks and everybody ate their lunch and had their snacks all during the day or whatever it was. Like that was my thing. And now at home by myself, like 2 o'clock this afternoon, I was like, oh wait, I need to eat. Like I'm better at remembering to feed the dog than myself.
Which goes back to what we were saying. It's so much easier to take care of other people, right? They're always other people, other things. I have a dog, same thing. They're always top of mind. Where are they? What are they doing? How are they doing? But when it comes to ourselves, it's difficult. So yeah, making sure that you eat. So tip number one, if you have issues with feeding yourself during the day, it is the easiest thing to do is set a timer on your phone or set a timer on your computer so that it lets you know you should eat. Super easy. Put it into your calendar. If that isn't the issue, but drinking water might be, you can do the same thing. Set a timer so that every hour your phone reminds you to take a drink of water. Drink some water, drink some water, drink some water. Because what happens too, right? Especially if you're, I know Delane, you do a lot of meetings, right? If you're doing a lot of Zoom meetings and you're talking to people a lot, it's more challenging to drink your water because you're having to talk to people. And unless you're me, I mean, I have this gigantic water bottle. I don't care if people see it, but you know, other people do. We want to make sure that you get that water. And the easiest way to do that really is just to have that outside thing telling you, drink some water right now, drink some water. And your body will get used to that and you won't, the idea is, right, to give yourself a little bit of structure like that at first, and then you start to pay attention to your body and you don't need that outside stimulus to tell you. Okay. Another thing, self-care activity, make sure you're getting your movement in. Heather, you talked about this too a little bit. And I know, Chris, you mentioned it too. Get up, move around. Get up, move around. And of course, when we're working at home on our computers, that's challenging. But scheduling those little times to be able to get up and move around. So particularly at home, I know that when I have a lot of computer work to do, I choose little blocks of time to do certain things that I have to do, certain activities that I have to get done. And when I get that one done, I get up and maybe I know it sounds like a really womanly thing to do, but I'll switch the laundry, or I'll take the dog out, or I will do some dishes, or I will just take myself for a walk, like mini walks and things like that. So finding different ways to break up your day so that you're not sitting the whole time, or even if you have a standing desk, to move, to actually just be able to move around, because standing in one spot all day isn't good for you either. Okay. And getting that movement, I don't know about you guys, but I tell you what, when I'm talking to somebody on the phone, if I can walk around the house, I think so much better. Yeah. And they've done a ton of research on that, particularly in education, when it comes to the brain body connection and moving around. Like you can think so much more clearly and you can learn better and you can teach better when you're actually physically moving. So keeping that in mind. And of course, like Megan said, meditation, relaxation, social connections, making sure that you have things that you enjoy doing that you can relax doing. And this is the part, I don't know how many conversations I've had in the last week around this piece, the relaxation and hobbies. It's really interesting. And Megan is smiling really big right now. She has a craft room. It's very exciting. However, or a craft closet now, which is great. This is a big area that I talk to people about all the time, and I work on myself. As we get out of our teenage years, as we move into our 20s, as we move into our 30s, and life gets different and challenging in different ways, we tend to leave behind the things that we enjoyed doing that were just things that we enjoy for ourselves. Right? Like I remember back to high school, I used to love to just sit in my room and read. I was in my room all the time by myself, reading or drawing, not that I'm good at it, or writing, or, I would do cross stitch and things like that. Just little hobbies that I could do that were just for me to just relax and decompress. And how often as adults do we sit down and do those kinds of things? Right? There's other things you can do, right? You can garden, you can, go for walks, you can play with the dog or the cats, or, those kinds of things. But things that aren't what we as adults consider hobbies or stress relievers, right? As adults, we tend to think of stress relievers as I'm going to go train, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to do 300 minutes of cardio, I'm going to sit in front of the television, I'm going to eat my cookies, right? Not those things, but finding those hobbies that we enjoy. And it can be with other people, right? It doesn't have to be just with you, but making sure that we schedule time to do those things. Because I don't know about you, but the first thing to leave my calendar or leave my desire or leave my brain are those things. And I will replace those with doing things for other people. Right? Mm-hmm. Chris, you were talking about that. It's like not saying no. Well, mm-hmm. if you never say no to everyone else, you're always saying no to yourself. Right? Mm-hmm. So keeping that in mind as we go forward. So how do you prioritize self-care? I started doing this probably about 6 months ago. This is actually my calendar in this picture. And people giggle about it. And it's not even as pretty as that. I prettied it up for you guys because mine has little things all over the place. But I do schedule. So there's work things in here. But I also schedule when I eat. I schedule when I train. I schedule when I do my 30 minutes of biking each day. I schedule my walks. I schedule my lunch. So my self-care that I really focus on and I'm good at, and this is the challenge, because there are self-care things that you are probably good at, right? There's got to be. I'm good at making sure that I get my movement in. I'm making sure I eat my food. I don't even have to put water on here. I drink a ton of water. It's not an issue. What I don't have on here are hobbies. What I don't have on here are things that I could do for myself. Like I said before, reading, knitting. I'm terrible at knitting, but I still try, right? Trying new things, maybe coloring. I used to color. I don't know, whatever it is, but finding those hobbies that you can do and you can plug into your calendar. Because if it's in your calendar, then you've made a promise to yourself and you won't replace that time as easily if someone asks for your time. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's kind of like scheduling your non-negotiables. The key to that, though, is finding a place to start. Okay. So the key to that is to say, okay, when I look at my list of things, so I'm going to ask you to look at your list of things and add to it if you want to at any point in time. However, oh, wait, I want to bring up one thing before we keep going. Do you see the one here at 8 o'clock?
I do that.
Do you?
Mm-hmm. 8 o'clock, I put my phone down. It's up for the sleep story. Sure. I put my phone down, and because I found that if I was looking at Instagram or TikTok or whatever, those things were in my head when I was trying to go to bed. So at 8 o'clock, I put my phone away and I don't take it. I put it in my bedroom for the story and then I turn it off before
Wow.
I go to bed. Yeah, because I found that that was part of the problem. I
So
was always looking at emails. Oh my God, I got to do this tomorrow now. So if I was looking at my emails and I had stuff in there that I had to do for the next day, that would stick in my head and I couldn't get it out of my head to go to bed. So I was like, I'm just not going to look at, once my emails, I looked at the ones for stuff I needed for work. And if there was nothing going on, you know, in my personal life, I just shut it off because I knew that I wouldn't be able to get it out of my head. And it's made a huge difference.
yeah. And your
Yeah.
heart rate increases, right? Because you're like, oh my gosh, I have to do that tomorrow. And
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly the opposite of what we want before we go to bed.
Exactly.
I'm just gonna, in my calendar, I'm just gonna put in that space then, be like Chris instead of turn off. Be like Chris. That's what I'm gonna.
Like I said, the sleep was so bad. And I was constantly, I mean, I had insomnia for a couple days in a row and I was just completely exhausted. And Ken's like, you got to work through this. He's like, you got to work through this shit or nothing's going to work. And he was right. I had to learn how to decompress at night. And once that worked, I haven't gone back. I haven't had one restless night since
There you
then.
go.
Yeah.
And I think that too, that's important to think about throughout the day, right? We can't
Mm-hmm.
go 100 miles an hour all day long doing all the things, right? There has to be a time. And maybe it is saying, okay, when I have my lunch, I'm going to close my computer, or I'm going to walk away from my computer and I'm going to have my lunch, or I'm going to, you know, if there's a time during the day where you have some downtime, instead of doom scrolling, right? Instead of that, turn it off, move it, put it away, because that just revs you up even more. When in fact, what we need to do, even though sleep is like our biggest recovery tool at night, we need to find those spots during the, and that's what self-care, that's what all these little things are, is times during the day where you can stop being and doing and thinking of everyone else and everything else, and just being in yourself and just sitting in. And Kenneth says this a lot, and I say this too, like sitting in your shit. It's not sitting in your shit.
Yep.
And it's not that. It's literally just sitting in your comfort and
Mhm.
reconnecting with you and who you are. And Megan and I were just talking about this the other day, is you are the only person in your entire life and for your entire life that you are with every moment of every day. And you are the only person who knows exactly what you're going through every moment on this planet. So to take the time to just sit with yourself, and whether that's reading, like we talked about, reading a book or doing a hobby, or, you know, listening to music or whatever it is, just to decompress during the day, even if it's for a minute,
Mhm.
your body is going to respond so much better. And that's the purpose of self-care, right? Self-care is there to help you be healthier. And when we do all those little practices and we find ways to stack those little habits throughout the day, we're going to be healthier overall.
Mhm.
And that's truly the purpose of self-care, right? Because it's mentally healthy and it's physically healthy, because we cannot separate the mental from the physical ever. So I want you to take a look at yours and we're going to talk a little bit about starting to create that habit, and a little bit about habit stacking, right? So when you look at mine here, I have stacked some habits. I know when I want to have breakfast, so I always back in. So if there's a habit that I want to create, like take a self-care habit, if there's a self-care habit that I want to create, I'm going to find that time that I'm going to do whatever that is, and I'm going to back into it. So my habit was, I was always kind of having breakfast at different times. There were different things going on. So I said, okay, I'm going to have breakfast between 7 and 7:30 every day. I don't have a class. I don't have anything that I have to do. I used to like intersperse different work things in there. Like, nope, I'm just going to sit down and have breakfast. So if I'm gonna have breakfast at 7, then I backed in and went, okay, so if it's 7 o'clock, I have class from 5:45 to 6:45, so that's perfect. So I make sure that I start to kind of stack those habits a little bit so that so that one kind of bleeds into the other and reminds me to do the next, right? So when we think about habit stacking, it's kind of like this. I take I take my multivitamin and I take my vitamin D and I take my fish oil all in the morning, right when I get up. Where's that located? In my bathroom. So when I walk in my bathroom and I go to the bathroom and I look at myself in the mirror, there's a cup right there and I go, oh, my supplements are right there. So I take them right away so I don't forget for the rest of the day. And then I brush my teeth. So I stack those habits. So when you look at the list of things that you're thinking about when it comes to where you want to improve your self-care, take a look at those and pick one that you feel like you might want to start incorporating for yourself in the next week or two. And once you pick that, now I want you to think about how are you going to incorporate that for yourself? What is that going to look like? And what do you need to do to make that happen? So if it's something you're going to choose to do every day, say you're going to choose to, we'll pick Megan's, we'll just say, I'm going to meditate for 2 minutes every day, just 2 minutes. I'm going to try. Okay. So don't say that you're absolutely going to be perfect, right? Just say, okay, I'm going to try to meditate for 2 minutes. Think about how can you make that happen for yourself every single day? Is there a specific time that would work best for you? Would it be when you wake up in the morning, before bed at night, at a certain time of the day? Is there something that you can stack that with that makes sense, that will remind you to do it, and it won't feel like such a burden to do it? Because maybe it's after you're done eating and you're going to sit down anyway, so you might as well, because you don't have to be laying down to do meditation. You can do it anywhere, right? So when you look at your one thing that you're going to try to work on, how can you make that easier to do every day for yourself? And it doesn't have to be a huge thing, right? Maybe it just is, I tend to skip breakfast. Okay, so let's schedule breakfast. Does breakfast have to be 4 eggs, 2 slices of bacon, some orange juice and a muffin? No. Breakfast maybe just is, I'm going to have a little bit of Greek yogurt and some fruit, right? Just to get a little bit, just to make breakfast be that first meal of the day, just to get some food in you, right? Or maybe it's you need a little more movement. So how are you going to schedule movement during your day? Like, is there one spot where you can say, every day at this time, I'm just going to make sure that I get up and move around? Anybody have a thought? Anybody want to share what you're thinking?
One thing that I've already done with habit stacking, the reason I get up in the morning is to have coffee. That's why I get out of bed.
There you go.
So something that I have started doing is when I pour my cup of coffee, I also pour myself a big glass of water, just so that I have some water right away in the morning too, instead of only coffee. But I love you guys' idea of turning off devices at a certain time. Every night I have my routine. I get the coffee ready for the morning. I get up at 5 and go to Laura's and train. So I have everything set out. I have my clothes set out. I have the coffee ready. I know what I'm going to eat the next day. I get everything ready. So I think I'm going to add to that list to turn off my devices. Stack that with that. Turn off my phone, or at least silence it, or whatever it is. I like that idea.
And you're going to do that because, why do you like that idea? What is that going to do?
Because I get wrapped up in doom scrolling. Yeah. It's
Me too. I can get sucked
the
in
thing.
for hours.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, those social media platforms, they really know how to get you.
Yep.
They have all the research behind them.
So Delane, I would love to know how you get yourself up in the morning, and probably all of you. My biggest thing is I would love to train in the morning. I usually try to train at lunchtime, but sometimes my days get disrupted or I have a meeting scheduled at that time. Then I end up having to do it in the evening, which is harder because you're tired from the day. I really want to train in the morning, but I am not a morning person whatsoever. So I would love some advice on how you started getting up in the morning and working out, and how you do that. Like Delane, I have to have my coffee first thing. Nobody talks to
Yes.
me in the morning without having a cup of coffee. I am not nice without a shot of caffeine, but I would love some advice on how people tackle, first, even just small steps on maybe a couple days a week I get up early and try it. I feel better now that I'm sleeping better, so I think it would be easier. But before, when I was tired, I was like, no way in hell could I exercise in the morning because I'm
Right.
still tired. So any advice would be really helpful.
Well, number one is sleep for sure. When I know that I have to get up at 5 tomorrow morning, I go to bed tonight. I mean, I don't, that's number one. I know I'm going to have to get up and I got to go to bed. But the other thing is that Laura is expecting me. And
True.
the other person that is there that I work out with is expecting me.
Mhm.
And so if I'm not there, I'm getting a text saying, "Are you coming today?"
You're being held accountable.
That is very helpful.
Okay.
Very helpful.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
that's good to know. I have a friend that we were talking about doing that and just texting us in the morning and saying, are you up? It's time to work out, whether we're working out in our own houses, but having that accountability partner, that's a really good suggestion.
yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
And I think too, part of it is, I know for me, being able to have my coffee. So I put protein powder in my coffee
Mm.
instead of because I don't like coffee. I really don't. I don't.
Oh,
Like coffee. I don't.
girl.
I know. I don't. I've always liked.
Delane and I are like about to have a heart attack.
I've always liked froofy coffee. Like I love the vanilla. Just throw a cup of creamer in there, and that's how I'm
Oh,
gonna.
Lord.
I know. So instead of creamer, I use protein powder because number one, it jumpstarts my protein intake for the day. But also, I use this birthday cake flavored. Oh my, it's so good.
Ooh.
Yeah, and
I'd be willing to try that.
and honestly, I have to tell you, Delane, I'm like, this is a little bit of information on me for when you guys come in the morning. I'm like, tonight I'll be like, oh my gosh. And it's rough because it's rough for me to get up in the morning too. The thing that gets me up and makes me happy is to have that coffee in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So
I honestly, I have one cup of coffee and I'm good to go. So I think if I just set my alarm, I have my cup of coffee and I get up, a half an hour, 45 minutes before my workout, I have time to just relax, have a cup of coffee, get my workout clothes on. I have to think about that and maybe just texting my girlfriend and saying, hey, let's work out at 6, because she's up usually super early too. She and I used to teach 5:30 classes in the morning. Like I would sub for her when we used to teach spin class, and God, did I hate teaching a 5:30 spin class, but I would do it for her, but maybe having that accountability partner and saying, hey, 3 days a week, let's make sure we get up together at the same time. We text each other, are you up? Time to work out. And I think that's a great suggestion. I think that would be really helpful.
And get your workout clothes ready the night before. That's what I do.
Yes.
They're right there. I get up and I put them on.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much. That's helpful because I'm gonna do that next week. I'll let y'all know how it goes, but I'm gonna start next week getting up in the morning, those 3 days a week and making sure I get my workout in the morning because I really do love having my workout done. because then I'm not stressed about trying to get it in for the rest of the day. That's my stressor is, did I get my workout in today, or how do I fit it in if I have a day full of meetings? So having that done in the morning, I think would, even really help that anxiety of trying to get it in.
And that, honestly, you ladies, just your conversation right there brings up the two biggest points about self-care. Number one, self-care. If we do self-care for ourselves, right? If we plan our self-care, it will actually decrease our stress and anxiety, right? So when we think about having to say no or keeping our promises to ourselves about our self-care, and then that selfish thought creeps in our head like, oh my gosh, I'm being selfish. It's like, no, this is actually going to help you feel less anxious and less stressed so that you can be more present and happier with those people. And you have more energy to be able to help others and be of service when you need to be and want to be. The other piece to that is self-care doesn't have to be alone. It doesn't have to be you always relying on yourself to do it, right? Like you can enlist the aid of other people to hold you to quote accountable to do your self-care, right? You can, like you're saying, Chris, have that friend that you're like, hey girl, let's get up, let's do this, let's hold each other accountable to do it. And then you're also, and think about that too, right? That's that socialization part too, because now you guys are in something together. So yeah, super helpful.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to share? Have a question, have a thought? Anything you would like to comment on?
I actually had a thought for Heather. Heather, I'm with you on journaling. I've tried it and I'm not very good at it because I just forget to do it. But on the meditation part, I find that really difficult, but I did find something, and Laura might be able to relate to this. I really love yoga, but I love yin yoga more because with yin, you have to hold the poses for probably 3 to 5 minutes. And in that time, I find myself kind of zoning out and being able to semi meditate in those spaces because you're supposed to really get into that position and to feel that position. And it does give you time to kind of just zone out and have a little bit of a meditative state. So I don't know if maybe that would help. I found yin to be extremely helpful in gaining flexibility as well. So I would do yin pretty much every day, even if it was just a half an hour. And when I was holding those poses for 3 to 5 minutes, it was almost like mini meditation sessions. And I found it easier to meditate when I was kind of doing something, quote, physical at the same time. So I don't know if you like yin yoga or not, or you might want to try it. But that would be kind of like an almost in between meditation and yoga. So maybe that might be a good help into getting into meditation. I know it helped me.
And what's great is you can hop onto YouTube and you can get
Yes.
like it ranges at 5 minutes to an hour and a half. Like you can kind of pick if you would like some guidance with that. Absolutely. Definitely.
Yeah, Travis Elliott is one of my absolute favorites. He has an amazing program, and he has a lot of free ones on there. So if you look up Travis Elliott, he has some great yin yoga pieces, and he has one for bedtime for like 15 minutes. And it's amazing. You do that for 15 minutes and you're out like a light within 10 minutes. So just something I wanted to offer up if you wanted to think about something like that.
That's great. Thank you. Anyone else?
I wanted to throw something out there with if you don't have your Calm app or like those other things to like help you relax to sleep, something that I do is I read a lot of fiction. And so if there's a book, there's stories that I've read that are multi-book series and things like that. So I know the characters and that kind of thing. So I'll just tell myself a story. I'll do a little fan fiction in my head and
I like that.
basically talk myself. And I'm a little, maybe it's silly, but I insert myself in the story. It's like, how would the story look if it happened here and we had these characters and this is what was going on? And honestly, like I fall asleep so fast. Like it's like I'll fall asleep and then like the dog or something will wake me up. I'm like, oh crap, where was I? I want to start where I was.
That sounds
Um,
awesome.
but if you don't have technology and you have stories that you can think of, you can like, maybe help yourself go to sleep that way. That's how I try and do
Yeah,
it at least.
that's pretty cool. I like that.
It is also really interesting that you bring that up, because what that does too is that takes your brain out of worrying about day-to-day life, what you're doing tomorrow, what you did today, what has to be done, all of those things. And it puts you into that space where you have the freedom to just kind of create your life, right? Create a fantasy world. So takes out the anxiety from the thoughts for sure.
Mhm.
Nice. What else? So any questions that you have about self-care, any questions that you have about around figuring out how to start with just something simple to help yourself kind of plan in a way for a little bit of self-care every day, because like we talked about, self-care is something that we need to be doing for ourselves every single day. It can be as basic as making sure you're drinking your water. Everybody, most people, we are inundated with, you have to do all the things and be all the ways, and if you're going to do self-care, it has to look like X, Y, and Z, and it has to be X amount of minutes, when in fact, like, the biggest thing that I want to get across tonight is that self-care is just finding those small ways in each day to do something that helps you feel better. Even if it's 30 seconds, even if it's a minute, and it's just a way for you to take yourself and put yourself as a priority each and every day, in small ways, because those small things, as we always know, those small things add up to big things, particularly when it comes to our health. Those self-care pieces, what they do is physiologically, they allow your body to relax, they allow your brain to relax. Then your HPA axis, which is your stress axis in your body, that makes the cortisol go up, that makes your heart rate increase, that makes your adrenaline increase. We can tamp those things down even for just a minute. They've done a ton of studies on that. If we can, even in like stressful situations at work, if we're in between crazy meetings and it's a crazy day, even if we can just take 1 minute in that time and sit back and take 5 deep breaths, we can bring our heart rate down. We can put ourselves into a parasympathetic state, which is the rest and digest state. And we can help our bodies to really be healthier, even when just a minute. We can help our bodies to de-stress for even just 1 minute. Because our bodies are this great, our thyroid does a great job of managing our stress levels, energy in, energy out, and where it needs to go and how it needs to work. So our body is used to working hard. If we can just take even a minute to just breathe and decompress and find something in that minute or 5, or move around and get into that parasympathetic state, get out of the fight or flight, we are going to be healthier long term, even just by doing that a minute here and a minute there during the day. Decreases inflammation, helps our cortisol, helps our cholesterol, helps our blood pressure, all of those things. Thoughts, questions? Okay, what's one takeaway that you got from tonight that really stood out? What's one thing that really stood out? Good, bad, or indifferent, doesn't matter. You can comment on my hair's crazy, I don't care. Whatever it is, doesn't matter.
Yin yoga for meditation or yin, whatever, some kind of yoga.
Yep.
The habit stacking for me.
Okay. Megan, what about you?
Probably the habit stacking for me too.
Okay. Delane. You kind of already said you
I gotta find my mute before my unmute. For me, I think just being I think just awareness, being aware of a balance between doing things for others and myself.
That's huge.
Mhm.
That's a huge one. Huge, huge. And mine, what did I learned so many things from you ladies tonight. That's why I like doing these, because I learn just as much as I try to help everybody else learn. Um, too many, too many. I think it's the device thing. That's really my big deal.
Mhm.
We tend to be on our devices until we're just about hitting the pillow. So I think that's super. Well, ladies, it has been, oh my gosh, we've been doing this for over an hour. And I know Chris needs to, get on that television with the
That's
game.
right.
But thank you. I appreciate you joining me for this webinar. I hope that you have learned something important and that you can take with you. And of course, I am always here if you have questions or thoughts or want to chit chat about those things. I would love to hear how things are going as you move forward um, with your self-care practices. Obviously, this is a really deep, long, just wonderful subject to work on. And it's kind of a lifelong journey. So let me know how it's going. And if you need anything, I am always here for you.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Laura.
Yeah.
Good to see all of you.
It was
Yeah,
good
you
to everybody.
too.
You bet.
Nice to meet you all.
See ya. Have a good night.
You
Bye.
too.